What a difference a year makes. Zero Motorcycles has a new scooter, a new CEO, a new corporate home, a new concept bike, and apparently a new direction. We'll get to the 2026 model year lineup in a moment, but first, the backstory. If you don't follow Zero Motorcycles closely, you might be surprised just how much the company is changing as it celebrates its 20th anniversary and rolls out its 2026 lineup. Whether you're a Zero insider or not, it's apparent that Zero has changed its strategy. Instead of pouring all of its resources into developing expensive top-tier long-distance bikes, it's now diving headfirst into what it no doubt hopes is a higher volume market that shifts the near-term emphasis from its U.S. roots to overseas. The changes actually started several years ago when Zero outsourced most of its assembly line work to IMI in the Philippines. Then this fall, Zero announced two major bombshells. First, it's moving its global headquarters from California to the Netherlands. Then in November, it suddenly announced in a news release that it's changing CEOs. Pierre Martin Boss replaced longtime CEO Sam Paschal, who was moving into a senior board advisory role. At the same time, there's concern in the Zero community that the SRS sport touring model might be on the way out. That's because the SRS doesn't appear in Zero's first video showing the 2026 model lineup. However, at the time of this video's recording, the SRS was still listed on Zero's US and European websites. Now the biggest news. Zero is announcing its first ever scooter, an urban-focused model called the LS1. It sounds like a fantastic urban runabout with 71 miles of range and a roomy storage area under the seat that's big enough to fit a helmet. Or riders can add a third battery to increase the range to 106 miles. By the way, we're talking urban miles here, not highway miles. This SRF is a much more capable interstate machine. The LS1 scooter's top speed is expected to be 62 miles per hour when it reaches showrooms, and according to multiple reports from sources like Ride Apart, Motorcycle.com, and Electrek, it's not coming to the US. But deliveries in other parts of the world are expected to begin by the end of 2025. Meanwhile, Zero's bikes that are meant for interstate use are only receiving minor updates, and Zero has not made any public mention of if or when DC fast charging might finally be on the roadmap. While it looks like base models of the bigger bikes will now come with 15.6 kilowatt-hour batteries as standard. The SRS is getting a modest refresh with aero strakes and a redesigned belly pan. The changes are expected to enhance airflow. Speaking of airflow, there was also no mention of what looked to be a very promising range gain. In 2024, White Motorcycle Concepts and Zero showed off an SRS with a new pass-through aero system that resulted in a 10% reduction in drag. That in turn resulted in a range gain of between 7 and 9% during highway testing. But that was 2 years ago, and it still hasn't made production, which is yet another potentially disturbing sign about the SRS's future. Zero, if you're watching this, please go ahead and drop a note in the comments about the future of the SRS for 2026 and beyond. And if you'd be willing to be interviewed, I'd love to talk to any Zero representative on camera. Now back to the good news. Zero is offering more affordable bikes in the lower end of the market for new riders, especially in Europe, Latin America, and the Asia Pacific. Zero is also showing off a new concept bike called the Lampico, although I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. It's going to include what Zero says is an all-new operating system called Cypher 4. That bike also looks like it will be aimed at an urban commute audience since it's expected to have an 8.8 kilowatt hour battery compared to the 17.3 kilowatt hour battery offered in Zero's current top tier models. The entry level XB and XE bikes are also returning for their second model year, although they still aren't street legal here in the US. The XB has a US list price of $43.95, which is the most affordable Zero ever made. Meanwhile, the price of the new LS1 scooter is expected to slide in under $10,000 since it's part of Zero's All Access initiative, which has a goal of 6 new models priced under $10K. The LS1 includes standard traction control and ABS. For new urban riders in many parts of the world, 2026 looks to be an exciting year to consider a Zero now that it has a more affordable lineup. But for existing Zero customers with the bigger, more expensive bikes that might want to upgrade, they're going to have to content themselves with saying once again, maybe next year. Hey, and before we say goodbye in this week's EV Rider, I want to introduce you to our new mascot, Zappy. Zappy, what's next?
Be sure to give this EV Rider video a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.